Welcome, 8th graders, to your linear equations test review. I have my first period watching me right now, so if there's any outbursts, someone will be in trouble. All right, I can graph a line when given an equation. If this is a target for you, please pay attention. If not, go ahead and fast forward. So we are given an equation in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form looks like y equals mx plus b, where b stands for where we begin. So we're going to begin at 0 to our y-intercept. So if you have graph paper, great. You might want to have some. Print some out because this is kind of messy. So I'm going to start at 0, 2. What I'm then going to do is use my m for move, my slope. My slope happens to be 4, or 4 over 1. It's rise over run, not run over rise. So I'm going to go up 4 over 1 from that point. And my graph's a little bit small. So I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1. In reverse, I can go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. And then I would connect and extend my line. So B for begin, M for move. Same thing here. I'm going to begin at 0, negative 3. And then I'm going to move according to my slope, which is 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So I'm going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, connect and extend my line. Slope-intercept is probably the easiest for you guys, but what happens if we're given standard form and point slope? Couple options. You can make a table and plug in some points to plot. So you have to plug in when x is negative 2, what is y? It's kind of like when we do x and y intercepts. So I get negative 6 plus 4y equals 12. Subtract the negative 6, 4y equals 18. Divided by 4, this is going to be an ugly one, and I'm going to get 4 and 1/2. So I could do that. I'm going to go negative 2, and then up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. That's 1 point on the graph. I could plug in 0, negative, or 3 times 0 plus 4y equals 12. Divide by 4 for y equals 3. So 0, 3. Then when I plug in 2, I'm going to kind of make a mess on the board here. I can do 3 times 2 plus 4y equals 12. 6 plus 4y equals 12. Minus 6, 4y equals 6. Divide by 4 for y equals 3/2, or 1 1/2. So then that's 1 1/2, 2 and 1 1/2. Notice I have a slope of about 3/2. I'm going, I would better connect and extend that line, but you know how my smartboard is sometimes. That seemed like a lot of work for this one because they were ugly numbers, and some of you would maybe prefer to convert to slope-intercept form first. That is also an option, but if you're kind of not strong in that area, then you wouldn't want to do that. But if you are, then you know you can solve for y by moving this over, getting 3x plus 12, then dividing by 4 for y equals negative 3/4 x plus 3. So can I begin, start at 0, 3, move according to my slope of down 3 over 4, up 3 over 4 the other way. And that line is the other line I had. Same thing, just a different way to go about it. Point slope, you have 2 options as well. Pull out the point. You're given negative 4, opposite of what you see, and 2 with a slope of 1/2. So you can start at 1, 2, 3, negative 4, up 2, move according to slope, which is rise 1, run 2. Rise, run 2. Connect and extend your line. Again, another option maybe for some of you is to distribute and switch. So you have y minus 2 equals 1 half x plus 2, then you add 2, and you end up with y equals 1 half x plus 4. Notice we're still at that same deal. Hope I didn't make a mistake there. All right, so that is graphing in from an equation. Next target, I can identify a point and slope when given an equation in point slope form. Some of you struggle with remembering to look at the opposite. So remember, this is where you would have plugged into for x and y. Subtraction is part of the equation. So notice on this first one, what would have I had to plug in to end up with a positive? That means going from the original, that's y minus something for y, negative 8x minus something for x. So for that to become addition, I must have had to plug in a negative 7 and a negative 5, meaning my point is negative 5, negative 7, with a slope of negative 8. Similarly, on this side, we plugged in positive 2, because this stays part of the equation. This is what you enter, and a positive 4 with a slope of negative 3. Simple as that. Pick out the opposite. Another one, identifying which form an equation is written in. So just knowing slope intercept is y equals mx plus b. It's solved for y. Point slope has exactly its name, a point and a slope. And standard, remember it's standard to know your ABCs, in order ABC. So just looking at these, which is which? Y equals 6/5 x plus 1. That matches that form. Slope intercept. Slope intercept. 2x. X and y are on the same side. The single's on the right. That's standard. Y plus 7 equals negative x plus 5. That matches pretty well to point slope. You would write out the words on your test, PS. This is also point slope. And this is standard. Okay? I don't think you're doing too bad on that target. I can write an equation from point slope form to slope intercept. This is where the trouble begins. So be careful. Remember your integer rules and do not be careless. So first step would be to distribute when you're trying to get there. You're going to distribute the slope to everything inside. Then you move the value on the left to just get y alone. You are solving for y. So we shall begin. Y minus 5 equals 3 times x plus 3. Step 1, distribute. Y minus 5 equals 3x plus 9. Step 1 is over. Step 2 is to move that single over here. It does not add to 3x because they're not like terms, but it is added to 9. So I end up with y equals 3x plus 14. This line is the same as this line in a different form. Another option, distribute. There's a 1/2 here. Sometimes we like to get rid of the 1/2 ahead of time. Since we're going to slope intercept, we can have a fraction, so I'm going to leave it alone because it also nicely distributes to those numbers. So I have y plus 4 equals 1/2 x minus 1. 1/2 of 2 is 1. So then I bring 4 over by doing the inverse operation, and I end up with y equals 1/2 x minus 5. Nice. So hopefully that target shouldn't be too terrible for you. It's just 2 steps. 2 steps. All right. Going from point slope to standard, we struggle a little bit more here. Okay, remembering we do, yes, still need to distribute. Okay, sometimes that fraction's ugly and can't distribute. obviously, you can get rid of it ahead of time. Distributes first step, then move the values to look like this, meaning we want the single on the right, and we want x and y on the left. We do have to remember that the a value cannot be a negative, a fraction, or a decimal. Hopefully we know decimals, our place values are by tens, so if we have 1/10, we can multiply by 10. Multiplying by -1, or dividing for some of you, will get rid of the negative in front. Multiplying by the denominator will get rid of the fraction, and multiplying by 10, or whatever the place value, will get rid of a decimal, which we won't run into today anyways. So, step 1. I'm going to get my calligraphy pen out because I'm kind of sick of the irregular pen. We're going to distribute the 8. Y plus 2 equals 8 times x, 8 times 3 for 24. I'm going to move my single over first. And I get y equals 8x plus 22. Some of you may stop there, but then you realize, oh wait, my directions were to go to standard form. I must continue to bring my x over. Since I'm adding x, I'm going to subtract x. So then I get negative 8x plus 1y is equal to 22. Do not stop because there's a negative in front. So I multiply both sides by -1. Multiply everything. A lot of us forget to do this one. So a negative times a -8 is a positive 8x. -1 times a positive y is a -1y equals negative times positive for a negative 22. One more on this one. Distribute the 1/4. I'm going to distribute it because it's nice right away. You could get rid of it right away. So I have y minus 5 is equal to 1/4 x. 1/4 of 8 is 2. You need to see that. 1/4 of 8. 8 over 4 is the same as 2. Bring my 5 over. So I have y equals 1/4 x plus 7. Trying to bring my x to the other side. Subtract 1/4 x. So I have negative 1/4 x plus y equals 7. I'm not done for 2 reasons. I have a fraction and a negative in the a spot. You could do 2 separate steps, multiply by 4 to get rid of the fraction, multiply by -1 to get rid of the negative, or you could do that step all in one and multiply by a -4. So -4 times -1/4 is just a positive 1x. -4 times y is a -4y. And -4 times 7 is a -28. Ta-da! Another target. I can write an equation in standard form, slope-intercept form. Hopefully you guys obviously know that you can be pausing me at any time. This is a video. You can rewind at any time. You could really fast forward at any time too, but that may not be a wise decision. So, going from standard to slope-intercept. We have x and y on the left. We really only want a single y on the left. So our steps are to move things over. We're going to move x over first. Since we're adding 2x, we're going to subtract 2x. So we get 3y is equal to a -2x plus 6. We are going to divide by 3 to get y alone. A lot of you would have stopped there, but you can't. So I divide by 3 here. I divide everything by 3. So I have y equals negative over positive is a negative 2/3 x. 6 over 3 is 2. Same line, different form. Over here, this one's nice and easy because y is already alone. So I only have one step. Subtract 5x from both sides. A whole bunch of you might write 10x. You can't do 10x because they are not like terms. Some of you are going to write 15 minus 5x. No, x comes first. So it's y equals negative 5x plus 15. If you needed to do this to show that you have to subtract from that, go right ahead. Last one, this is where a lot of you get stumped. You see that negative there? We are going to get over this sphere right now. Right away, I'm going to add the opposite so that I see I have to subtract 4x. A whole bunch of you would add 4x just because you see a subtraction sign. But you were not subtracting 4x in the first place. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. I get negative, don't forget it, a lot of you will, negative 2y equals negative 4x plus 8. So I divide by negative 2 on everything, and I get y equals negative over negative is a positive 4 over 2x. Positive over negative is a negative 8 over 2. I'm only showing you this because, yes, you know 8 over 2 is 4. So most of you would have done this right away, but some of you would have left this. That is not simplified. Do not leave it like that. Y equals then 4 over 2 is 2x minus 4. Finding x and y intercepts for a graph, table, or equation. On a graph, this one doesn't have numbers on it. Say I do number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we'll say. And 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll say. You know this is your x-axis. You know this is your y-axis. Your x-intercept is where you cross the x-axis. On this line, you are always on 0 for y. You are currently crossing at 6 for x. On this line, you are always at 0 for x, but you have a value for y. You happen to be at 4 for y. Here, same thing. X-intercept is where y is 0. Y-intercept is where x is 0. So looking at a table, where is y 0? When x is negative 2. Y-intercept, where is x 0? Where y is 2. Equations where you have to plug in. And I think I'm going to pause because this first period class is going to end, and I will continue shortly. And we're back. All right, equation, solving x and y intercepts from an equation. What you're going to do first on these ones is, again, same theme. You know that your x-intercept is when y is 0. So what that means is you're just going to plug in 0 for y. So we're going to do 0 equals 2x plus 8. A lot of people try to divide by 2 here. You cannot get x alone until x is actually alone. So you have to subtract 8 first. So negative 8 equals 2x. Now that x is by itself, we can divide by 2. And we're going to find out that x is equal to negative 4. So when y is 0, x is negative 4. To find your y-intercept, you're going to do the opposite. Your y-intercept is when x is 0. So you plug in 0 for x. Y equals 2 times 0 plus 8. So I get y equals just 8. That easy. Same thing here below. Do the same thing. So for my x-intercept, I'm going to bring this all the way down just so we have room. For my x-intercept, that is when y is 0. So I plug in 0 for y. So I have 2x plus 3 times 0 equals 8. So I get 2x is equal to 8. I divide by 2, and I get x equals positive 4. For my y-intercept, that is when x is 0. So I plug in 0 for x. I end up with 3y equals 8, dividing by 3, and I get y equals 8 thirds, or 2 2/3. There we go. Now I have an x-intercept and a y-intercept. That's where that equation crosses the x-axis and the y-axis. Determining the correlation of scatter plot and writing a sentence. So here, I'm going to look at what this is first. I see that all of the lines are going up in a positive direction. If I made a line of best fit, it would go in between the points. So because it's going up, x is increasing and y is increasing. This is a positive correlation. And since it's a positive correlation, I'm going to write a sentence of what's happening. I look at x. X is the time spent on the exam, and this is grades is y. So what this means is as more time, more meaning it's increasing, as more time is spent on an exam, I'm very specific, the higher, meaning an increase, the grades will be. Voila. Notice it started with capital, ended with period, people. Last one, this is looking at hours of exercise and the LDL level. That's spelled funny. It's supposed to be different. So what I'm going to look at is that the correlation is that the points are going down, which means as x is increasing, y is decreasing. So I write that this is a negative correlation. And as the number of hours exercising, I'm very specific again, increase, the LDL decreases. Another example, which I don't have a graph for, if something were no correlation, okay, so x, y, and it was all over the place, you can't draw a perfect line of fit. You will write no correlation, and some of you are going to write a sentence after that. You write no correlation, and you would write that as x increases or decreases, there's no change in y, or you can say that there is no constant relationship between whatever x and y represent. Voila. And now you should be ready for your test, making a scatter plot in the table. I'm not going to do this one right now, but you do need to remember that you need title, axis, intervals, labels, and size. Okay, so I'm going to wish you the best of luck on your test, and I hope that you can study and use your review sheet and study guide to prepare. Good luck.